As we said, NDTV World is your destination, ladies and gentlemen, for the 360-degree view of the American elections. We, in fact, started when the voting started early morning. It's late evening, and my colleague Gauri Dwivedi is joining us from Washington, D.C. Gauri, what a fascinating day has this been, and it is going to be a very long night, early morning and long night, and even this may not ensure that tonight the results are going to be out completely, isn't it?
Absolutely, Ankit, and in fact, it's a great broadcast to have at a time when election results are coming in, even as in some places counting is still going on. So welcome to all the viewers to this very special broadcast. Ankit in the studio giving us all the minute by minute updates that are coming in on his laptop and computer, and of course me filling in with some of the other big picture developments that are happening. Ankit, extremely important as we talk that behind me, I am in fact at Howard University. Behind me is supposed to be the big watch party in the event that Kamala Harris wins this election. Historic in many ways for her, and also the messaging extremely important for her. And just when we were about to start this show, the DJ started, and the one thing he started what he said when he started this his tune was that if you want to create black history with me, join in. And that's exactly what this moment will end up being. If Kamala Harris does go on to win this election, she will create history in many ways. And behind me you can see some of that action picking up, but still early. It's still early, of course, for any celebrations to begin in, as only early trends coming in right now. Ankit.
Early trends coming in at this moment, in fact, as Gauri was telling us. But Gauri, you know, like you said, it is, of course, history in making. Whichever way you look at it. Last time it was Donald Trump who stopped Hillary Clinton from becoming the first woman US president. Kamala Harris standing at the same precipice. And the election, of course, from range of issues, economy to immigration. But, you know, the latest polls suggest democracy and the state of democracy remains at the top of the agenda for the voters.
Indeed, a third of the voters seem to have found democracy being a very important pivot in this election, and that's extremely important given the fact that Kamala Harris's campaign, which was effectively 100 days old, focused totally on democracy. Her entire campaign was about that if I don't come to power, then there's a fascist regime that comes to power. If Democrats are not voted in, then the whole campaign will be about, you know, the next administration will focus around sending 1 crore or 10 million immigrants back, even if it cost about $88 billion to American taxpayers. So that was essentially Kamala Harris's big campaign around democracy, and if a third of the voters found it appealing, it resonated with them, I think it's a success for her, given that she only had about 100 odd days to put that in place.
Right, Gauri, you know, I'm just going to come back to you, but let me also introduce our other colleagues, those who are tracking these developments in United States. Jennifer joins us from Florida, and we have Tony just joining us at this moment as well. Good evening, ladies. Before I come to you, in fact, let's just take a look very quickly at some of the projections that are coming in at this moment to the race of the White House. In fact, exit polls have also started coming in with exit polls also still predicting a very tight race. So for the NBC News, in fact, is predicting 48% for Kamala Harris and for 44% for Donald Trump. If you go across to, in fact, other exit polls like the CNN, 42% for Trump, 46% for Kamala Harris. Meanwhile, at this moment, in fact, a lot depends on what happens in the swing states. Jennifer, if I may come to you at this moment, Donald Trump is camped in Florida. What has been the reaction so far with the early indications which are coming in, specifically with Pennsylvania, when people are talking about, you know, leads coming in favor of the Democrats? How is the Republican camp reacting to that?
Donald Trump
is in Mar-a-Lago. J.D. Vance is there with him. There is a private watch party going on there. I understand that there have been a lot of cars going in and out of Mar-a-Lago today. I think a lot of advisors talking to Donald Trump about how to handle the rest of the evening. There is a large watch party set up at the Palm Beach Convention Center. Thousands of journalists from around the world, lots of Trump supporters in town waiting to see what will happen. Pennsylvania is going to take a very, very long time to call, Ankit. So the early numbers sometimes come from the cities, and they will be pro-Democrat, and you have to wait. In 2020, it took 4 days to call Pennsylvania, and that, of course, when it went to Biden, gave him the presidency. So we know that these are early days yet. So far, what we've seen happen have been pretty reliable states going to the people, going to Trump and Harris as we believe they should have gone. But it is going to be, as you said, a very, very long night, and Kip, as we move forward, waiting to see how the messages resonated. You know, Gowrie was saying that Kamala's message was democracy. Trump's message was, I will fix it. I'll fix immigration. I'll fix the economy. I'll make America better again, as he has said over and over. And the question is, how many Americans are going to vote for that? How many Americans turned out for him? We know that turnout today here in Florida has been tremendous, and early turnout was tremendous. How that's all going to pan out across the country, but we're going to find out in the next couple of hours. The polls closed here only half an hour ago. We still have a couple of time zones to go before the rest of the United States is finished.
That's right. But Tony, if I may come to you, Tony Waterman is joining us from Arizona. You know, while we are talking at this moment, the projection at this moment, in fact, if I can take at the leads, Donald Trump is projected to cross 270, while Kamala Harris somewhere around 260. Does that give Donald Trump and the entire Republican campaign a lot of heart that they are at this moment at the precipice of history? Like I said, he stopped first woman president with Hillary Clinton at that time, and now, of course, another woman president with Donald Trump. And if these projections come true, he's going to stop that again.
Yeah, I mean, we're still very, very early in counting the votes here in the United States. So any trajectory that Donald Trump may look on for the 270 is far from guaranteed. It will take just a couple of these swing states to swing in either direction for either of these candidates to win. Here in Arizona, we still have about 20 minutes left before the polls close. This is one of the 7 battleground states in this election cycle, and it is going to be very, very tight. So officials here are saying it could take nearly 2 weeks to count every single one of the ballots that have come in the early voting process, and then also today, and also those ballots that were requested weeks ago that people are just having time now to drop off. Part of the reason why this is going to take such a long time potentially is because the ballot here in Arizona is exceptionally long. We're talking 2 pages front and back that need to be filled out, all of these little circles by hand. That's going to take a long time. Also, officials saying there could be 500,000 early ballots that are brought in today, that their signatures are going to have to be verified, and that there are 5 days for any discrepancies to be resolved. So any notion that the voting is going to be done tonight, I don't think a lot of people believe that, particularly here in Arizona, but across the United States and in these swing states where we are expecting some razor-thin races here. So in Arizona, Biden won this state. It was his narrowest victory back in 2020. We're talking about fewer than 10,500 votes. So this is important that every single vote is counted when you're talking about margins that are potentially going to be that thin. So I think any notion that Donald Trump is on a clear path to victory right now, or Kamala Harris for that matter, is ill-advised at this point in the night.
Those numbers are premature, of course, because there are still some parts of America which are voting, even as some parts are, of course, counting. But a couple of important updates before we go back to our reporters. One is that Kamala Harris has won the very blue states of Delaware and New Jersey, as was expected. Nothing that is out of what the expectation was as far as her kitty. But the important part, of course, is Pennsylvania, Georgia, and North Carolina, where voting has just ended. Their early trends are yet to come in. The second important bit, Arkansas, again a state that was expected to go to the Republicans, has gone. Donald Trump has won that. And not since Bill Clinton won it that it actually swung. So these are all expected victories that are coming in, but it's important to keep reflecting that. But there are two important firsts that our viewers must know. One is that Andy Kim has become the first Korean American to be elected to Senate. And the second is Risa Blunt Rochester has become the first black female senator from Delaware. Delaware is an extremely blue state, but these are all firsts that we must keep telling our viewers as we keep waiting for those big numbers, isn't it, Ankit? What really happens to the states that will decide the next president, whether it's Georgia, whether it's Pennsylvania, or even North Carolina, that seems to be in play right now.
Right. So, I mean, of course, like, our reporters are also telling us, it is quite early at this moment to even indulge in any kind of conjecture. Of course, a lot of exit polls have started putting their projections out, but it will take, and I was just going through Twitter or X, in fact, and former President Obama has also put a post out saying that it is going to be a slow process. So be patient and be, in fact, the process is going to take a lot of time before, in fact, there can be any decisive verdict that can be, at this moment, be drawn on what is happening. We'll go across to Natasha. Also, she's joining us from Philadelphia in Pennsylvania to try and get a sense of this important swing state. Like Tony was talking about Arizona, Pennsylvania, of course, all eyes there as well. But before we do that, Gauri, very quickly, if I may come to you at this moment, right in the run-up to this election, we saw how divided and how polarized this entire campaign was. It was a very aggressive Donald Trump taking on Kamala Harris, both sides trading charges. It seemed there was nothing off the table. Now, after almost the voting is done across United States, how is the mood? Have the tempers come down? Are people now, in fact, what are they looking forward to once election is over? Because there is a real worry that there could still be some sort of uncertainty even when the results start coming in, given the history what happened last time.
Indeed, of course, Ankit, and we'll put that, in fact, to our guests as well, who will be joining us in terms of what happens next. Whether this vitriolic political climate that many say is actually very new for America, will that subside, or will this really start a new wave of political landscape being very fractured, or some would even say broken, simply because the two sides of the aisle refuse to see eye to eye on any major issue, whether it is immigration, whether it is economy, whether it's abortion, any of the major issues. There is just no way that any consensus can happen. And that's something that a lot of experts going into these results also said, that irrespective of who comes to power, with a very broken Congress, what may happen is that the next president, instead of wasting time in trying to get some sort of a consensus, will just have to exercise powers to issue a lot more executive orders. That doesn't bode well for the world's oldest democracy, but that just tells you the broken political landscape that exists right now in America, only part of which is likely to be healed after these results that come in, hopefully later in the night, and not spill over till tomorrow.